afternoon, KHM agents. Welcome to KHM Today, your bi-weekly resource for industry news and straight up fun. I'm your host, Carolyn Orff, and today is June 4th, 2025. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And hopefully you can see, I'm not having any technical issues. So we're going to knock on some wood to make sure that everything goes smoothly today. But just a couple of things. Number one, we're so excited for Destination Success. We've got over 100 people joining us virtually, and I think 247 joining us in person. So we can't be more excited for you to all join us in Cleveland this summer. So we're very excited, and so are our suppliers, and more information on the fun and that's to be had is going to be trickling out here soon. I want to share with you all that I just spent 72 whirlwind hours. I was up at 4:30 this morning to get back to you in time to do the show today. I was in LA with an event with Globus Family of Brands, which you may or may not know. They're headquartered here in Colorado, and I have to tell you guys, this was the best group of people. I love meeting all of the KHM agents. I love being at different things. I'm not going to say but, because that discounts everything I've just said. This group of people was so interesting because it was agency owners that sell a lot of the Globus brand. It was host agency owners that the company as a whole sells a lot of the brand of all different sizes. And it was so interesting to talk best practices. What are their struggles? What are their strengths? How are they moving forward? Are they growing? Are they not growing? It was really a fascinating conversation, and I just can't wait to see that group of people again at other events. But it was really fantastic. And for those of you that maybe know this about me, I'm big on time blocking. And one of the things I do every day is time block the hour from 6 to 7 o'clock to watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And I'm fairly decent at Wheel of Fortune. I am miserable at Jeopardy, but that doesn't stop me. Well, yesterday, as a treat, Globus took us over to the Sony Picture Studios, and I got to see the set of Wheel of Fortune. And it was dark because they're on hiatus right now, but I got to see the screen and the wheel. We actually got to talk to one of the producers. It was really, really fascinating, and it was so exciting. So I'll be posting some pictures so you guys can see some of the things that we saw. But it was really cool. We didn't see anyone famous, although I did hear that Matt Damon was on the lot earlier that day. But it was really fantastic. So a huge thank you to Globus for hosting me and the rest of us that were at this meeting. But it was really fantastic. But you're not here to hear about that stuff today. I am so excited to welcome Dori Saltzman to the show for the very first time. She has been writing since 2007 with a focus on the cruise industry and retail strategies for the trade. I'm reading her bio here because it's easier than remembering it. She was part of the inaugural editorial team for Travel Market Report, which launched in 2009. And prior to joining TMR, she worked for Cruise Critic. That's fascinating. Her work has appeared in Travel Weekly and Travel Agent, and she is an author. We talked about this last week of Death of a Travel Advisor, which is a fiction murder mystery story. So we are going to talk about that today. So please welcome Dori Saltzman. Hello, Mrs. Smith. Hi, Dori.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
I hope I didn't butcher your bio too hard. I'm like so excited to have the conversation. But you have a long career in writing in the travel industry. So share with us just a little bit how you got started.
Oh boy, that's a long story. This is not my first sort of career. I used to be a New York City public librarian, actually. So I did that for a while. I had done a few things prior to that. I worked in the .coms until the .com bust. I actually worked for Giants, which is now known as Ensemble, way back in the day. I worked for Leisure Travel News on the publishing side for a short while. And then 9/11 happened, and I had a master's in library sciences. And that was the first time I really went into like a profession and became a librarian. Prior to that, I had been dabbling in all these other things. So I did the librarian thing for a few years. And then I had my midlife crisis when I turned 30. so I picked up, and left the country and traveled around the world. Doing some volunteering in different countries, and ended up I was doing some volunteer work in Romania, where I met the man that I'm now married to, and so I moved to Romania. So trying to figure out what to do, I started by freelancing. And I had a friend who worked for Travel Weekly, so I started off with some articles in Travel Weekly and Stars and Stripes and a couple other things. And then after we got married and moved back to the States in 2006, then I did everything I could to get back into the travel industry. And my first job was with Travel Trade, which was a long-standing trade publication for many years. So started with Travel Trade, and then from there went to Travel Market Report, then to Cruise Critic, then back to Travel Market Report. So yeah, very long story, very long winding story.
That's not a long story. It's the story of any traveler, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
You somehow you're there, then you meander off the path, and somehow you find your way back to this industry.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. So because Travel Market Report kind of has one genre of writing in the industry, and then Cruise Critic. So talk about your time at Cruise Critic, because I think that's a really valuable resource for agents who are researching.
Yes. So I had from when I was on the inaugural team at Travel Market Report. I met the then managing editor of Cruise Critic. They asked me to come on board as their news editor, so I sort of started on their news site. I apologize for the cat who was
I'm
crying. Um, um, so it was a fantastic opportunity because it really gave me the opportunity to develop an expertise in cruise, and I absolutely have an expertise in cruise now, and really dive into the cruise industry. And I know that the industry sometimes has not the best relationship with the cruise critic boards, and I don't blame them. The boards can be very opinionated on a
Mhm.
lot of things, including travel advisors, unfortunately. But on the editorial side, the amount of research and work that the editorial team puts into the articles, and the ship reviews in particular,
Mhm.
that's the type of information that is invaluable for travel advisors, not only for them to learn, but they can send it to their clients. So if their client is trying to decide between, let's say, two ships, you could send them a cruise critic review of the two ships by the professional editor,
Right.
not the boards, not the community, but by the professional who wrote those two reviews. And they're so thorough. It would give the client a lot of information to be able to help make that decision. There's also things like if you just don't know something, which cruise lines do this and this. Cruise
Mhm.
Critic almost invariably has an article with the answer to that. So it's a fantastic resource for advisors, for cruisers, and again, for me, it was fantastic because it really did enable me. I was there for 8 years to develop a pretty strong expertise in cruising. So, yeah.
I think cruising has just expanded so much, right? I mean, we always
Yeah.
thought of it as just ocean, and now we've got river, we've got exploration. So I mean, your knowledge, you have to keep experiencing in order to
Yeah.
become more and more knowledgeable, which I think is
Yeah.
amazing. I know you just got back from an Arctic cruise, which we'll have to
Well,
talk about another time because we got to
yeah.
get to the book.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you're writing articles and reviewing things, and you decide to write a fiction novel. And I know from our previous conversations, this took you a while. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So this book, I started writing this book probably in 2009. So really back at the start of my journey, not totally start, but back a while. And I don't remember how the idea struck me, but I just remember having this sudden thought: what if someone died on an inaugural cruise and a travel advisor was the one who had to figure out what happened? And I've always been a fan of the amateur sleuth
Yeah.
mystery genre. Murder She Wrote, favorite show. And it just was like, well, what if a travel advisor had to be the one to figure this out? And then from there, I had this fantastical idea for how the death would occur. just like a way that couldn't really happen, because I also don't want people to be like, oh my God, I'm going to go on a cruise ship and die. So I came up with this fantastical way for this to happen. Although if anybody's been around long enough, they may remember it was like 2007 or 2008. Royal Caribbean actually did trial parasailing off the back of their
Is
ship.
that so?
Yeah, and they the very first time they tried it, they lost the balloon, like just lost it, and that was it. They never tried again. But sort of giving a hint to how
Yeah,
the death occurs. That it's not something that happens on cruise ships ever.
right.
So I came up with this fantastical idea and just started writing it. And I'm a huge, huge, huge supporter of the travel advisor community and travel advisors in general. And so part of writing the book wasn't just like telling a fun murder mystery, but I really did want to showcase travel advisors.
Mhm.
I've always thought that there should be a TV show for travel advisors, the way like Love Boat, what Love Boat did for cruising, if there was something that could do that for travel advisors. I'm not saying my book is that, but I wanted the book to
Right.
showcase that travel advisors still exist, what they do, that they're useful, that they're valuable. And so, like, all of that just, came together and started writing it. And it took me a long time. At one point, I stopped altogether for a while because, life just happens. And then came back to it and finished it last year. Yeah.
Well, and well, two things. Let's start with the title because as we were talking before the show, as I was doing promos for this episode, it was, you know, read Death of a Travel Advisor. It's a fiction murder mystery. It is not an essay on the death of the career, the death of the industry. So,
Correct.
and you were saying I kind of like that. So, talk to me about how you came up with the title.
Yeah, so it was not the first title that I went through. I had some other titles in mind, and they were problematic for various different reasons. And someone said, "Well, why don't you just make it? I mean, it's about the death of a travel advisor. Why don't you make it Death of a Travel Advisor?" And at first, I was like, "Well, I don't know. There's this whole thing about death of travel agent is dead." But the more I thought about it, the more I actually liked the fact that it was playing on that, and primarily because every time someone who's not in the industry reads the book, invariably they come back to me and they say, I didn't know that travel advisors were still a thing. And so it kind of plays
Right.
on the fact that there's this whole the travel agent is dead, but they're not. And so I liked that combination. I liked that the fact that this is all about how they're not dead. And like, I mean,
Mhm.
one of them is dead, but, but
Or there'd be no story.
right. But that it's about, I mean, it's set entirely in the travel advisor world. So many of the characters are travel
Mhm.
advisors. There's BDMs, there's presidents of cruise lines, vice presidents of cruise lines. It's set entirely in that world to show that that world is still very much alive and thriving. And so I sort of like the way the two things combine
Well, and the first
in
couple of
contradiction.
chapters are almost like an education in the industry, right?
Yeah.
You'll say terms and then you define them. You say terms and then it always comes back. And I love when someone says travel agent or says something and there's a little bit of like an eye roll that happens from the main character. And that
Yes.
happens a couple times throughout the book, kind of like how many times do I have to tell you?
Yes.
Um, so let's talk about how difficult it was to kind of start this. You have this story. What's the did you always know the characters' names? Like how difficult was that to come up with?
So with this one in particular, I knew I the first thing I knew was who the killer was. That was the first thing I knew. I knew who the killer was and I knew how that death was going to occur. Those were the only things I knew. And I just started writing it from there. I did not know the character's name. I knew the killer's name. I actually did know his name. And I probably knew some of the other secondary characters' name. The main character probably went through 3 name changes before I settled on her name. Um, my husband is Romanian, and I did want to bring some elements of Romanianness into this story just because I thought that would add an extra layer. I mean, it's not very heavy, it's just a little bit. But so I wanted her to have a sort of Romanian name that's
Mhm.
been Americanized, so when in the shorter version. So Gabriella, and her sister Alina, which is a very
Mhm.
common Romanian name for girls. So, but it took me a little while to get there. I guess it probably took me a little while to get some of the other characters. I knew I wanted to have these Irish sort of characters, so it took me a little while to pick out the names that I wanted. But that story, I did not outline this story at all. This was written, and as I went along, the story developed, which is different from the story I'm writing now, which is completely outlined. And we're going to see which one I like better. But
well,
yeah, that one.
The cruise line, like you're thinking about all these, and as I was reading, I'm like, how would you even start to come up with what is the name of the cruise line going to be? And it's got to be so different that someone doesn't think that you're talking about
Right.
another cruise line. So, how many iterations of the cruise line name did you go through?
I think actually the cruise line name. I think
Don't
I
tell
got
me
that.
one.
Yeah, I got so that's Sea Cirque Cruise Line. I got that pretty quickly because I knew I wanted to have the Cirque sort of feel to it. And again, this is where my experience in the industry and the fact that it was written so long ago, this dates back to when Celebrity Cruises had a partnership with Cirque du Soleil on their ships and used to do these aerial shows from the ceiling, which
Mm-hmm.
is long gone now. Nobody really has that sort of relationship. But I liked that feel, and I wanted to bring that feel into the story because in my mind, it gave it like this almost macabre sort of feel, especially in the hotel. There's a hotel scene that happens later in the book. This sort of, that clowns are both funny but also scary kind of thing. So Sea Cirque fit pretty quickly
Mm-hmm.
because I knew it was going to be an overall theme for the cruise line itself. And I probably did a search just to make sure nobody else had Cirque or anything, but yeah.
You mentioned that you had some Romanian tendencies in some of the names. Did any other personal relationships that you have end up making their way, whether it be a name or a personality or of any of the characters?
Not via names or personality so much. There is a little bit the not quite the relationship between Gabby, who's the main character, and her aunt, but the fact that her aunt is dying in the story of pancreatic cancer, that came directly from my own
Mm,
life. I didn't have the same relationship that she has with her. Like I didn't grow up with my aunt,
right.
but that comes directly from my life. A little bit of the relationship between the two sisters comes a little bit from my life. I have a sister, and I mean, we have a fantastic relationship, but there have been times where it was strained. So again, I'm embellished, very much embellished.
Right. Right.
But the relationship between me and my sister a little bit. So there are little bits and pieces in that, but not through names or really personalities. Maybe one. She has one friend who's kind of based on his personality is based on a friend, but not too much. Yeah.
I'm sure that people that know you, if they read the book, they're probably like looking to see if they can identify anything. I would imagine that happens to many authors, though. Um,
Yeah.
so I want to ask you in your life, but also our audience out there. And I've been thinking about this. If this was to happen on a ship, who do you think in your life, which advisor in your life would be that super sleuth and be the one out there trying to solve the mystery?
Which travel advisor in my life? Ooh, that is okay.
Who would be the super sleuth in
Okay.
your
Is it okay if she's from a different, like, not that she's not
Absolutely.
KHM?
Yeah.
Okay, Jackie. I feel like Jackie Friedman
Ah,
would like be all over. Like she would definitely want to get her hands. I thought if you ever see this, Jackie, I mean this in the nicest way. I feel like she would want to be involved in figuring, like in that. Like that just seems like she likes to get involved in things. So
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to tell you. So mine was my friend Shelly Phillips. She is the Alabama ASTA chapter president, and I've known her for many, many years. And I don't know, when I was thinking about this question, I was like, I could totally see her. She's tiny, tiny Southern accent, but I feel like she'd be digging right in there, and no one would see her coming.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she would just kind of be sleuthing around here and there. No one would even know she's doing it, and all of a sudden she'd solve the mystery.
Yeah, I think everybody would know if Jackie was doing it. I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be subtle, but yeah.
So when I see her next week at AST, I'm going to tell her that she's our
Okay.
super sleuth. Both of them. Both of them.
She
Yeah.
hasn't. She hasn't read the book. She's very aware of the book, but she has. Every time she sees me, she's like, "I'm going to read the book. I'm going to read the book." So
Got it.
if you tell her that, she'll think it. Maybe she'll read the book.
So for anyone that has purchased this off of Amazon, you're seeing that it's book number 1. So can you talk to us about what book number 2 is going to look like?
Yeah, sure. So book 2 is actually technically going to be a prequel. It's going to take place before this book. So one of the characters, really wonderful character from book. I mean, obviously the main character is going to return, but a couple of the characters are also going to return. It is set during a all-inclusive fam trip. I haven't decided yet on. It's probably going to be in Jamaica, and it's like tour various resorts type of fam. It is called a Famtastic Murder, and yeah, and there will be multiple deaths in this one. It is not technically the death of a travel advisor in this one. It's not a travel advisor that dies, but it does take place during a travel agency fam, and the majority of the characters are travel advisors. The sort of the understory to it. So I mean, obviously she's trying to, the main story is she's trying to solve a murder, but the understory is the relationship between her and her sister that really I felt like as I was writing, after I wrote the Death of a Travel Advisor, I realized it was a story about the relationship with the two sisters that hadn't been told, like how they went from being estranged to being friends again. So this is sort of telling the story of them coming back together, and her sister gets accused of the murder, and so she gets involved in trying to solve it because she's trying to save her sister. So that's sort of the premise of that story. Yeah.
Sounds fun. Now let me ask you this, and before I let you go, I think there's probably a good 50-60% of the people out there, if you ask them what is something you've always wanted to do, writing a book would probably be up there. I know I have an idea in my head, but as we talked about before the show, it's the whole dialogue and the typing of it that just bogs me down, right? Um, what's words of advice you would have for people who really wanted to pursue, just kind of getting that one idea that they've always had out on paper? They don't plan on writing the greatest American novel. They
Right.
just want to get that idea out there.
Yeah. So it sounds trite, but just start writing and don't worry about the formatting. Don't worry about, we were talking about, how you thought that like having, because I do a lot of dialogue, that having to constantly put the quotes and the comma and this, that would be overwhelming. If that's going to be what stops you, then don't write that now. Just
Mm,
write the story. Don't worry about double spacing. Don't worry about adjectives. You don't even have to, like, if you get to a part where you're like, I don't know how to describe this, just put needs description and then just go, just write the story, get the story out of your head,
mhm.
and everything can be fixed later. Everything can be edited. Everything can be rewritten. But the first thing has to be get the story out of your head, and don't let anything, if your brain is telling you whatever the reason your brain is saying don't do this, because I'm afraid of dialogue, I don't want to double space, whatever it is your brain is telling you, your brain is lying to you. That's what our brains do. Our brains try and keep us safe from whatever they think is
Mm.
dangerous, for whatever reason they think it's dangerous. And so our brains think when we're sort of doing something out of the norm that we're risking something. So our brains then lie to us essentially to get us to stop. Don't listen to all the excuses that your brain is giving. Just write. It comes down to just write.
That's great words of advice. I love it. I would imagine someone who writes during the day, and then this is kind of that exciting um, outlet for you. Does that get exhausting? Like, is it relaxing for you to sit with your laptop and just kind of, you know, type away when you've been typing all
Sometimes
day?
So I don't write every day. I sort of have, there are 3 days a week that are sort of my designated writing days. And when someone starts to try and start writing a novel, they're going to encounter all kinds of advice about what you should do as a writer. And one of the pieces of advice that you'll hear ad nauseum is write every day. That doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for me. I do spend all day writing articles for Travel Market Report, and there are days I can't just start writing my fiction if I have spent a good solid, let's say, 6 hours writing. So I do have specific days that I have allotted for writing. And sometimes it continues to feel like work when I'm doing it. Other times you get into the flow and it feels fantastic. But I don't do it every day because I just can't. Like, that is too much. That would be
Right.
exhausting. Yeah.
Right. Dori, we can't wait to see book number 2. If you haven't purchased book number 1, go on Amazon. It is there. It's a really fun read, especially when you're in the industry, to understand those relationships, and it's sisters, it's friends, it's a storefront, and it's a really great read. I got really into the story and into the lives of the characters, and I was not correct on the whodunit.
Oh,
Um,
good.
but that's okay. I rarely am. I rarely am. But thank you so much for taking the time. I know you just got back from a whirlwind trip, so I know you're probably exhausted, but we thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you at the next event.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to talk about my book. I'm thrilled to talk about cruising, the industry. Like, it doesn't matter how jet lagged I am. You get me talking about the things I love, and I will talk
It's so
forever.
easy to do, right? Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. We'll see you soon. You
All
guys,
right. Thank you.
next show is on June 18th, and we'll welcome a few KHM couples to the show to discuss how they support one another. We've got couples that work together, and then couples that don't work together in the industry, but what that support looks like in this crazy business that we all love. So I'll see you back here on the KHM YouTube channel, June 18th. Happy selling, everyone.